I'm a wallflower. I like to people watch. I don't like to be noticed. I never forget, she was telling me, like I'm listing off all my accolades and like how I'm this degree and I'm this certification. And she looked me dead in the face. And she was like, none of that matters if no one knows who you are. Like, if you don't promote it, like none of that means anything. Right. So I had to show up, learn how to be more confident and like look people in the eyes, because before the MS thing, I was a fairly confident person, but having all of that happen to me, that rocked my confidence. Maybe the universe knew that I wasn't going to do what, maybe I would have gone to chicken out. And they were like, nope, you're not even get the chance to chicken out. You don't have a drop of a back, so now you got to do this, Hi, this is Twyla Adkins, and you are listening to Dreams in Drive.
Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 295 of the Dreams in Drive podcast. And I'm super excited for you guys to hear from today's guest, Twyla Adkins. I wanted to start this off by reading to you Twyla's pitch to me, because I think it's going to really get you guys excited about what you're going to hear on today's episode. Here it goes. Hey, Raina, I follow the typical immigrant route of trying to pick a safe and financially secure path in life. I looked up one day and realized I was unhappy and extremely stressed out. Can you relate to that, guys? Around that time, I started listening to the Dreams and Drive podcast, and it wasn't until I had a major change in my life with my health, we'll talk about that in this episode, my pregnancy, and COVID, that aligned with hearing a particular episode of this podcast that I stopped living in Park and moved to Drive. But like most of us, it didn't go exactly as I hoped. My entrepreneurial journey started with me reverting to what I was comfortable with, playing it safe, small, and accepting less than I deserved, and it kept me stalled. But then when my sister died, it reminded me again that life was too short to be unhappy, that my journey, like so many others, is a series of adapting, learning when to rest, when to invest in yourself, and when to quit. I want to tell you guys a little bit more about Twyla. She's a project management professional. She's a wife, a mom. She's also creative. We're going to talk about her journey and how she was able to really hone in on her niche. She's now an entrepreneur doing her thing full time. And I want you guys to really, really just think about those words that I shared with you. I don't want to give away too much, but this episode with Twyla will really have you reflecting on all the things that you may have counted yourself out and what happens when you decide to just take a chance on yourself and dive into the unknown. If you love this episode, I'm please asking that you share it with your own community. You can find us across social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dreams and Drive. So make sure that you're tagging us and letting us know that you are listening in. Your story has power. So if you're listening to this right now and you feel like your story does not have power, please, I'm telling you, after you listen to Twyla, you're going to realize that you have your own testimony. And I'm excited to hear what this reveals, what this inspires, and what this motivates you to do along your own dream driving journey. Let's hear from Twyla.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
I am super excited to have you on the show. One of my big goals for 2022 is to have more dream drivers, more listeners of the show tuned in. So having you on today is going to be a treat. And I'm also excited for us to talk about this topic because I feel like, it's something that we haven't really discussed that much on the show, project management, and like, how does one even get into this industry, this field, and just hearing your story. So it's going to be a lot of good stuff today.
I'm excited.
All right. So let's go back in time, right? I love to start our interviews by reflecting on who we were as children. Who was the young Twyla? What was, really inspiring you as a child?
Oh, gosh. So I was born and raised in St. Martin. I'm pretty much the only person in my family that's not from St. Kitts. And so when I was growing up, I was always obsessed with books and writing. I moved to the States when I was 13 and had a really interesting time trying to adjust to being in the States. I remember every time I opened my mouth, people would be able to hear my accent and tell that I was different. So, I would really shrink from the attention. If you know me, that's not surprising to hear that I hate being the center of attention. And I really was desperate to kind of blend in and fade into the background. So I would hide my accent and kind of reserve it for family or when I dropped my guard, or if I was vexed or a little tipsy or really comfortable around someone. So, younger me was quiet and reserved. I told myself I wanted to be a lawyer like any proper immigrant.
Right? Doctor, nurse, lawyer, doctor.
Right.
Yeah.
But secretly, I wanted to be a writer. I mean, I still have a suitcase full of journals and notebooks.
I have a question for you. What was the most jarring thing about coming to America? What was, especially, at 13, because you're not quite so young that like you're easily, you adapt and you kind of just mold in with the other kids. 13 is really the pivotal age in who you are as a person. I feel like, that is seventh grade. I remember 13 because that was the year for me of bat mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs. I went to school with a lot of Jewish kids. So it's like the coming of age. So how was it to come of age in America?
It was real fucked up. It was a really weird transition to go from, having everybody sound like you and act like you and eat the same foods as you, and then you come here and then all of a sudden people are like asking you to say words and asking you kind of ignorant questions about being from the Caribbean. And I moved to Omaha, Nebraska, so like.
Oh, girl. Ooh.
I know, right?
You should have moved to New York first. Brooklyn. At least make Brooklyn your first stop.
I know, Brooklyn, Miami, or something. But I moved to Omaha, Nebraska, so I very much stood out every time I opened my mouth. It was weird. The weather was the hardest thing to get accustomed to. Especially because, I grew up with two seasons, that's hot and not so hot. All of a sudden it was cold, and every time it dropped below 70, like I just wanted to die. It's just freezing. And so I think that was probably the biggest thing for me, was just the amount of white people that I encountered that I was just not used to growing up. And then the cultural differences between kind of being seen as an other.
What was the dream for you then? I mean, I know you said when you were younger, you wanted to be you wanted to be low-key a writer, right? But as you came to America and you developed, teenager and even young adulthood, what was the dream that you were working towards?
I was working towards being a lawyer. I mean, I did debates and I did teen court. My bachelor's was in legal studies. I eventually went on to become a paralegal. I had started studying for the LSATs right before I realized that I would hate becoming a lawyer. So that was really what I was working towards, was being a lawyer.
Did you feel deep in your heart that it was for you?
No. If I'm being truly honest with myself, looking back, I didn't know, and I knew I didn't want to do it. But when you grow up as an immigrant, or you grow up with not a lot of money, your money drives a lot of your decisions. And if you don't have the right support or people encouraging you to do what you want and not what you should, you typically end up doing what, you think people want you to do.
I feel like that's something that a lot of us can relate to, right? It's that whole idea of who are we really doing it for? And then one day you have this moment where you're like, this isn't really what I wanted to do. So, how did the pursuit of law turn up for you, right? Did you end up going to law school, or did you have another pivot?
Oh, I had another pivot. I was working with a bunch of lawyers, and I realized that at least the ones I work with, I'm not going to speak for all lawyers, but the ones I work with, they were miserable. It seems I
hear that a lot too.
They had zero work-life balance. And a lot of them too, I worked with really old-fashioned, and they wanted me to like wear pantyhose and cover up my tattoos, and I felt really stifled. And so I was really unsure about what I was going to do after that. I thought about being a therapist, but the math and the science part of that was a no for me. So I worked for an admin for a while. I worked my way up to being like executive admin and office managers, and for colleges and accounting firms and development companies. And that's really when I first got my introduction to project management. because over the years I'd been put in charge of managing different projects and I had enjoyed it, but I was still kind of stagnant. I was kind of stuck until one day they tried me. Like I said, I live in Omaha, Nebraska. So, the weather is really disrespectful in the winter. And there was this huge storm and I was working at a college at that point and the campus and office were closed. But because of my title and my perceived value, I had to go in and I almost died. Yes, I almost died to go drive in and sit in an empty ass building. And I was vexed. I was mad. For me, that was like my fuck you moment. I sat there and I started looking into getting my MBA degree, and I started to look for a concentration and I picked project management because it made sense, not only because of the experience I had up until that point, but if you know me, a few things make me happier than planning stuff. So that's how I ended up pivoting into project management.
Ooh, let's talk about that. Nothing makes you happier than planning stuff. Because I feel like it's really important when we're thinking about our dreams and just like what we want to do in our life is going back to those passion points, right? And what truly makes you happy. Where do you think that love for planning came from?
I really love taking beautiful chaos and making it really structured and organized. I like when we have an idea for a trip or, someone wants to execute some sort of design in their house or remodel or whatever, anything, literally anything. My sisters can call me and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. And I'm like, ooh, let me get a pen and paper. Let's make a list. I get so excited about like planning it and making it organized. Like I always say, how when you eat something good, you do like a little dance. Like I do that dance when I plan something. I'm like, oh, this is going to be so good.
And, it's interesting because you found then like a way to make that a career. Because a lot of times, a lot of us aren't really able to connect those passion and those skills of us, those skills of ours into a plausible career. But you're like, oh, wait, project management could work, right?
Yeah, like I can get paid to do this, bet, So right before I graduated, I was recruited to work for a global Fortune 130 company. I started off as a project coordinator and I worked my way up to a project manager and program manager. I worked crazy hours. I would say yes to any opportunity, any project, because I was so anxious to climb that corporate ladder.
Did you enjoy, although you are very ambitious, did you enjoy working on the corporate side?
Fun fact, I did not. I ended up becoming really unhappy. I used to talk about it with my older sister, and she'd tell me, money wasn't everything. Around that time, she had just been diagnosed with cancer. So she had offered me a different perspective than the one that I've been holding on to, which is the one of a girl who didn't have a lot of money growing up. All of my decisions were based on money. I picked MBA because I was told that, an MBA is going to help you make more money. I picked tech because I was told that was the field that would make me the most money, and I never, ever wanted to struggle again. So, I did all of these things. I looked up, I was making six figures and I was launching really, really big projects. I've worked on projects that have been valued over $15 million. I've worked on projects globally in EMEA, APAC, all over North America. And I was taking dope trips, but I was really unhappy. I was working on projects that just didn't excite me. And I was going through the motions. And that was actually around the time I started listening to Dreams and Drive. I would listen to you interview all of these like brave, smart, accomplished folks who went after their dreams. And I would like fantasize about being one of them, and about working on projects that I was excited about writing. And, but I never really did anything about it. Not really anyways. I told myself I couldn't. My husband was in getting his engineering degree. So, and I was supporting him through that. I had a secret blog that I wrote on.
We all have secret blogs, right?
I mean, to this day, no one still knows the name of it. Or I started writing a book, but like I wouldn't let anybody read it. I mean, that was really as far as I was willing to go.
Okay. And then what was the point for you where I know you said you were reading the episode, you were watching the episodes. Do you remember like an episode or a guest that really spoke to you?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, there's Maya Ellis, who I later got a chance to work with. There's Jessica Chinyelu, who I also
I love both of those ladies.
Yes, they're phenomenal. And there was this one, Craig Young, that I also really resonated.
Oh, he used to be the cheap god on Instagram. I think he changed his name to like Chef Young. So he changed his name, but yes, I know him.
Yes. And then of course with Jennifer Lewis. Those are the ones that I listen to. I mean, you know, when you find a good episode, you're like, oh, I'm saving that. Those are the ones that I saved that I would go back and listen to.
Okay. So then you decided, like, what was the first step then that you decided, all right, I got to take a hold of my life and my personal dreams for myself?
You know, it actually was decided for me. You know, and I've actually never really told this story. I think probably like 10 people in my entire life know this story, but, you know, in the spirit of, I started working with Baker Robinson, who is another phenomenal mentor of mine. And I'm working on, you know, being myself, unapologetically. So I'll tell the story. What changed for me was, one day I woke up completely different. I woke up and I couldn't sit upright without everything spinning. I couldn't walk without falling down. I almost fell down the stairs. My vision was completely jacked. I mean, it was blurry. It was double. And so I spent like a week in the hospital. Just no one could figure out what was wrong with me. You know, I saw physical therapists and eye doctors and neurologists, and nobody knew what was wrong. So I laid there like in the dark, literally and mentally, for like a week because it was too much to keep my eyes open. And I would just sit there, and I realized that I didn't care about the projects that I was executing, that I had to hand over. What I cared about was like, will I ever write again? Will I ever dance again? Will I ever see again? Will I ever, you know, look at art again? And so, you know, that for me was the start of me going, okay, I need to do something different. You know, I had my right eye had strabismus, which if you're unfamiliar with that, that just means your eye is misaligned. Like out of the blue, my eyes were both straight forward. And then one day they were just not, they were just misaligned. And so I was there for a week, and, you know, because the medical system is trash, especially when it comes to women, especially when it comes to Black women, I was sent home and they diagnosed me with quote unquote anxiety.
What?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to downplay, you know, the symptoms of anxiety, right? But that's really all they did.
Yeah, they legitimately, I mean, even while I was there, they found out that I had Arnold-Chiari malformation with an MRI, which basically means that my brain is slipping through the back of my head. But they were like, oh, we could do a craniotomy, but this isn't what's the main problem. So we think you're just having anxiety, and they just sent me home. So, you know, I went home and I was like, okay, well, this is bullshit. And the next day I woke up and part of my tongue tasted funny. And I had to go back to the hospital, and it turns out that I had Bell's palsy. And if you're unfamiliar with that, it means the right side of my face was paralyzed. Like I couldn't move it at all. I couldn't blink, close my eyes, my smile drooped, like none of that.
You know, number one, thank you so much for sharing this. You know, you didn't have to, but it's just, I'm happy that you were able to get a diagnosis, right? Like, how did you feel during this time where there was this big level of uncertainty, right? It must have been scary and traumatic as well. Well,
the thing is that it wasn't the diagnosis. It was just something else that was happening. Okay. You know, Yeah, that when I got the Bell's palsy, that's when everybody started to kind of really like pay attention. You could see like the oh shit on all of the doctors' faces. I mean, I completely spiraled from after that. I had was told, wait a couple months and my face might go back to normal, but I was like, fuck that. And I looked into acupuncture to fix it. I did physical therapy. I relearned how to walk. Had to relearn how to walk. I used to have to wear an eye patch to correct the strabismus in my eye, but it's got worse. And I mean, I just kind of really went into a deep depression. I was feeling damaged and ugly and embarrassed and useless. Like I needed help to hold cups because like my motor skills were trash, or I needed help to like go to the restroom or anything like that. And so if you follow my personal writing account, you see that I do like gratitude stories in my posts. And I started doing that because I was so desperate to find some kind of joy that I would try to think of at least 3 things every day that I was grateful for. And I would do these like little graphic designs with my pen to try to like, have a creative outlet. And so I spent like 9 months getting worse, where like my speech was bad. I would slur my words. I would, have bad memory and word recollection where I'd say things I didn't think I was saying. And, I did multiple spinal taps and all of this stuff. And so, to try to make a shortened version of it, I spent 9 months trying to get diagnosed from a lot of people. And I ended up having to go to Mayo. And then in December 23rd of 2019, they finally realized that I had MS.
Okay, that's multiple sclerosis?
Yes.
And then what? Oh, sorry. Were you going to continue?
No, that's the shorter version of it. Yeah. I just had to figure out, I had to really figure out for me during those 9 months what was important to me. And what I learned was I didn't give a shit about the things that I was doing. And I needed to figure out a different way to go about it. I realized I didn't want to work for a company that would, insurance companies, they would try to short you on like your short-term disability. And then I didn't want to learn to be dependent on a company to pay me anymore. I just really realized that I needed to do something different. I mean, I remember I went and did my PMP, which is like a certification that you get from the Project Management Institute. I did that during this time. I don't know what convinced me. Maybe I'm just a masochist, but I decided in the middle of not being able to see 100% or fully function that I was going to go take this hard ass test that 80% of the people fail. But I wanted to make sure that I had the skills I needed to be able to be successful outside of a company on my own. And so I went in and I took this test and I passed it on the first try, which that's when I knew that like I was one of the most determined and resilient people out there. And, that's when I really, really started fighting towards, I need to do something different with my life because I cannot keep functioning this way.
You know what's crazy? So as you were talking, I wrote down the words resilience, right? But then you also described that this period was a deep form of, or a time of deep depression for you as well. And so I was just saying to myself, wow, like it's so amazing that although you were feeling depressed, you dug deep and you found something to keep going, right? Because you could have easily had said like, all right, this is my life, and just kind of succumbed. But it seems like you said like, that determination really was a fuel for you during that time.
Oh, yeah. And not only that, but my sister was too. Around that time, my sister, she was stated to only have like 6 months to live because of the cancer. And so I would, when I wasn't in doctor's appointments or at home sick, and I finally got PRISM so I could drive again, I would go up to the hospital and I would sit with her and try to hold space for her and, try to just, keep her company and wrap her head, or just little things like that. And so that was another thing for me that kind of drove me, because I saw how she too was getting kind of screwed over by her job. When you're sick for too long, quote unquote, companies, for most people, you're just a number to them. So if you're not performing, then you have no value. And so just being with her and seeing her strength, and then, being reaffirmed and seeing that I don't want to rely on a company to make sure that I am okay. Those were the things that pushed me forward.
I took this screenshot, and it's so funny. Well, not funny, but it's so ironic that, this was a screenshot. I sent it out to my sister yesterday, and it said, "You never know when your detour will lead to your destiny," right? I think that the reason why I bring it up is because I'm thinking about, like, even with your story, you never planned to get sick, right? It's not like you said, "Hey, I'm going to get sick today," right? Like, you did not know that your life would turn out, or you didn't know the order in which, life would happen for you. It also, though, turned out to be a pivotal moment in your life, right? And talk to us about how, coming out of this period in your life, like how it was a transformation for you. Like, and what happened next is basically what I'm saying. Yo, Dream Drivers, you could do it all without breaking a sweat, and you can do it all in style. From being a boss executive to lunches and brunches with your girls, to the kids' homework, family dinners, that much-needed self-care time, trips to the grocery store, and a weekend getaway that's anything but a getaway. That's why Infinity fully reimagined the QX60 to help you conquer it all with ease. Even when you have back-to-back conference calls, gotta be on top of the kids' recitals, dance classes, or sports practices, not to mention your side hustle, because listen, dream driving is important and should be prioritized. A luxury SUV as functional as it is stylish, and is as versatile as it is serene. Available features include seating for up to 7 passengers, a suite of active safety features, and massaging front seats. And I don't know if you looked at the all-new Infiniti QX60 yourself, but it really is stylish, and it's something that I would definitely be proud to be driving around with me and my baby as a boss mom, right? Introducing the all-new Infiniti QX60, designed to help you conquer life in style. Now with extremely limited availability, contact your local retailer for inventory information. So what are you dreaming of? Adventure, more family time, a change of scenery? The nerds at NerdWallet can help you take the first step towards making your dream a reality. NerdWallet is a personal finance site run by money nerds who make it easy to compare and find the smartest financial products for you. So let's say you want to book an adventure beyond your backyard. NerdWallet can help you compare and find travel rewards credit cards so that you can use everyday purchases to rack up on points for flights, hotels, and more. Or maybe you want to spend more quality time with your fam. As dream drivers, that's important. NerdWallet can help you compare and find financial advisors so you can find less time watching investments and more time with the kids. They've got tools, calculators, and side-by-side comparisons to help you find the smartest products for you so you can turn your dreams into reality. Personally, my 2022 goal is scaling dreams and drive, so I can use NerdWallet to compare hundreds of the top credit cards and investing accounts. NerdWallet makes that super easy. Are you ready to compare your way there? Compare and find the smartest credit cards, investing accounts, and more at nerdwallet.com. NerdWallet Compare Incorporated, NMLS 1617539. NerdWallet is not an investment advisor nor an investment broker. Information is for educational purposes only.
Yeah. So, after I found out that I had MS, I didn't even really have a chance to really be, my first reaction was not like, oh shit, I have MS. I felt relieved, not because I had MS, obviously, but because I had an answer. I mean, I gave birth to this freaking diagnosis. I mean, it was a long ass 9 months just waiting and waiting and undergoing systemic racism. People, doctors tell me oh, you probably don't have MS because you're Black and Black people don't have MS. I mean, the amount of crap that I went through was ridiculous. So, when I had gotten my answer, I felt relieved, and I went back to work because I needed money because I had almost a year that I wasn't working and I used up all of my FMLA benefits. And so, I went back to work and I was like, this is going to be my last year working for this company. I'm going to start figuring a way out of this. And, I didn't even have time to think about like what my life would be like as a person with MS. A month after I returned, I found that I was pregnant. So this was January 2020. And I found out I was pregnant, and then I was even more determined. I was like, now I really have to go hard. I have to make sure that I am good. For me, for my son, for my health, because I needed to change the stress level that I was operating at, because the stress can aggravate, MS. And so I had listened to the Jessica Chinielu episode, and something about her had resonated with me. And so I reached out to her and I was like, do you ever do like coaching? Because I want to start a business. I had an MBA degree, and so I knew how or what was entailed in it, but I needed accountability. I needed someone to make sure that like I actually did it. And so I started working with her. I was super pregnant. I was like 7 months pregnant. I started working with her to put together a business plan, and I went, gave birth. So we took a break. And then I think it was like a month after I was in maternity leave, my company shut down its entire PMO or project management office in November 2020.
When you say shut down, do you mean like terminated or just?
For legal reasons, I will say that it was closed.
Okay. Because I'm like, wait, what does shut down mean, right? Like, okay.
I signed a lot of contracts, so I think I'm only supposed to say they closed it. They closed the location. So everyone that worked in that office, we no longer had a job. Okay. And so it was like the universe was like, oh, you say you want to work for yourself? Say less, sis. And calls me on my bluff.
That is really how, like, look, this quote is coming back into play. Like, you never know when a detour might sometimes kick you to where you have to go, right?
Yeah. I mean, because maybe the universe knew that I wasn't going to do what, maybe I was going to chicken out. And they were like, nope, you're not even get the chance to chicken out. You don't have a job to go back to, so now you got to do this, And so I went even harder. I applied for a grant, I got like $10,000 for a business grant. And I was like, I'm going to start this agency, Adkins agency. And I'm going to figure out a way to do the two things that I love, which is being a creative and then helping other people, reach their goals by means of helping them get it together, add some structure, and being really organized. And so Jessica ended up being one of my first clients. So that was like a real, come around moment for me. And I loved working with her. I was feeling good. I was posting on social media and I was gaining, like confidence. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm a business owner. Check me out. And then my sister died. And
oh my gosh,
when she died, I just did not give a fuck about anything anymore. I had just kind of shut down. I stopped posting. I stopped promoting myself. I stopped trying for a lot of stuff, with the exception of writing, because I had just joined. I just had gotten a writing mentor. I am a firm believer in paying people or investing in people who are smarter than me in different zones of geniuses, I think that's really important. So I had a writing mentor and I stuck with that only because I talked about it with my sister and she was really excited about me doing it. And so other than that, I just kind of shut down. And I just kind of focused on trying to keep I think my son was 6 months old at that time, just trying to keep him good. And that was it. I lost all of my steam. I just did not care. And so it took me a really long time to kind of recover. Obviously, I don't even think I have still fully recovered from the shock of it. But I just didn't care about a lot of things. I had ended up finding out I was on my second MS relapse, which means that, I had more brain damage going on in my head. And so I kind of took a break for a while and I had to regroup and go, okay, what the fuck are you doing? What's happening? Eventually I started writing again. I got opportunities to be a paid writer. And I think sometimes we overlook the successes that we have, because a couple of years ago when I was working my big corporate job, I was dying for an opportunity to be a paid writer. And so all of a sudden I had the chance. I was being paid to write. So, I want to take gratitude for that. And then I'm like, okay, how am I going to get this project management business together? And I've been following Maya for a while, and she had an opportunity. She posted on social media. She was taking clients for a case study. And I was like, there's no way she's going to take me. I don't have the huge, social media following. Like, she's not going to take me. And when she said, yeah, we'll work together, I legit cried.
My heart, I am over here smiling. You don't understand, like, this. I mean, smiling from just like hearing okay, sorry, just keep going. I'm sorry.
No, what were you going to say?
I was just like, it's just so funny how sometimes like things like the universe, whatever you believe in, right? Like, when something's for you, it will find you again. And that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
How you had this time, and I'm so sorry about hearing your sister, how you're going through this such, sad time. I can only imagine just being a mom and having to still know, like, you can't just give up 100%, right? But feeling like you wanted to, but then getting this opportunity that you didn't even count yourself in for in the beginning, right? Like, you applied, but you didn't think that it would happen for you, and it did. And just hearing, of course, I know, like, I'm waiting to hear the rest of the story. So just keep going.
And it was so serendipitous. Like, I had just opened my phone, and right before I opened my phone, I was having like a straight up mental breakdown. I was crying. I was crying over my sister. I was crying like I had to hit a good stride. And then when she died, like, it rocked me, and so I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Besides, the writing part was going well, but outside of that, I'm like, I don't even know how much I'm not charging people what I'm worth. I'm not making enough money. I feel so lost, and I was having a straight up mental breakdown. And I opened my phone, and her post was the first thing that popped up on Instagram. And I just shot my shot. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna DM her. And as soon as I hit it, I was like, nah, she's gonna say no. Like, you need this many followers. I had just started a new Instagram account just for project management, to clearly delineate between me as a writer and then me as a project manager. And I'm like, she is not going to take me. I had like 23 followers on the page. I'm like, no way. And she wrote back and she was like, yeah, let's work together. And I was like, oh my God, I cried. I took the very last bit of my business grant that I had left over, and I invested in working with her. And, she snatched whatever little postpartum edges I had left.
And listen, it probably wasn't a lot, right?
It was not a lot. Okay. That cute baby took all of my hair, all my hair. And she was taking the rest of them. But she's such a down to earth, giving person. She poured back into me. And I don't even think she knows this entire story. She's like no idea the impact that she had on my life. I actually ended up, when I had enrolled in her program, I didn't know it yet, but I was on my third MS relapse. But I was like, I am not about to miss this chance. I felt like shit, but I was like, we are going to do this. I tapped into that resilience again. Like, I am one of the most determined people. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out. So I felt like crap, but I gave it my all. She helped me get clear on my messaging, my framework, my pricing, and so that really was like the cherry on top of everything I needed to really feel like I could start positioning myself to fully serve other creatives and help them reach their project goals, because that's what I found out, that's what makes me happy. That's what lights me up, was helping other creatives add structure to and help them finish the projects that they set out to do.
I want to ask you really quick, and of course, you paid for Maya's services, right? So I'm not going to ask you to give us all the her tips, but what do you think for you was the biggest takeaway, and beyond like really narrowing down your niche, right? Like, what was the thing that working with Maya really changed about the way you approached your work moving forward?
Not just like, okay, the messaging and the framework and how much she priced, like that was all the dope shit. But believe it or not, it was the energy. She has this like aura of like confidence that you cannot help but pick up on you. And like I mentioned, like I'm really introverted. Like even the idea of doing something like this is like mad terrifying to me, because I'm a background person. I like to just I'm a wallflower. I like to people watch. I want to just sit in the background. I don't like to be noticed. And I never forget, she was telling me, like I'm listing off all my accolades and like how I'm this degree and I'm this certification. And she looked me dead in the face. And she was like, none of that matters if no one knows who you are. It's like, if you don't promote it, like none of that means anything. Like, and I was like, oh, right. So I had to show up, learn how to be more confident and like look people in the eyes, because before the MS thing, I was a fairly confident person, but having all of that happen to me, that rocked my confidence, because like even now when I'm on this call, like I am nervous that I'm going to start slurring my words, or I'm nervous that I'm going to say the wrong word, or I worry that I'm going to take too long in between words because I'm trying to make sure that I'm saying the right word, that my brain is going to work with me. Or I don't want to go on video because if I go on video, someone might notice that I have a prism in my glasses, or someone might notice that my hands shake like crazy. So I just became very, very subconscious. And so working with her, and then I met Deka Robinson through her course. And, when I was done with Maya's course, I started working with Deka, whose whole thing is about, helping people get back to themselves from, a confidence standpoint. That together just really helped me start doing things like, I posted my first few reels in the last week. And if you told me like 2 weeks ago or 4 months ago that I would ever on purpose go on camera and do anything, I would have been like, you a liar. So that's really what I took from it, was that I really learned to start having that confidence to say, like, I can show up and show up in price and serve my clients and add value, and I can do it confidently.
You know what I was going to say? Like, I wrote this down as you were speaking, like with confidence, like don't count yourself out. Like you may not be ready for it, but still don't count yourself out. And I even wanted to say, like, you said that you were nervous to even pitch to be on the podcast. There are so many things, anyone who's listening, there's so many things that we're nervous about, but what's that quote? Feel the fear and do it anyway, right?
Yeah.
Because imagine if you had never even just gave yourself a chance, never reached out to Maya, never said, all right, I'm gonna, try doing something that I didn't think that I would do, or even with like posting reels now, right? Like I wouldn't even be able to tell that you're not someone who doesn't like being on camera. I think you're very photogenic, right? Like you seem to be a natural, even when speaking on this speaking with me right now, like I would have never known that you don't do podcast interviews all the time. You know what I mean?
So, oh my God, I could hug you right now. I'll say thank you so much for that, because I have to work really hard at it. I actually read this book the other day. I think it's by Todd Herman. I think that's his name. It's called Alter Ego. And that really helped me too. Like thinking like, stop thinking as Twyla, the introverted, timid person, and then try, tapping back into like Twyla, the person that like is really goofy and makes Snapchat videos that will never see the light of day of me acting a plum fool, and that laughs and has a really good sense of humor. And so that's what I try to really embody. And, I'm glad that that's showing up that way, because I don't feel that way on the inside.
Sometimes you have to like fake it until you don't have to fake it anymore, right? Like, or fake it until the faking it feels so real that it's no longer fake, right?
100%, 100%.
Because sometimes that faking it will build the confidence that you need to realize that you never had to fake it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And surrounding yourself with smart, accomplished women, individuals that you can look to. And, you know, like Jessica Chininu, she was one of the first examples that I ever had that I met in real life that I was like, yo, I can be really dope as an entrepreneur. You know, like she opened the door for me to even consider that these types of people existed. And then, you know, people like Maya that are like, I like to nickname her Millie Maya in my head. Because like I'm just trying to be like Millie Maya. Like I want to be like that confident, even though she's one of the most down to earth people. Like I want to have that confidence, that swagger that she has in my own way. And so just surrounding yourself with people that are smart and confident and, you know, willing to help you better yourself. That's what I'm all about.
So when did you officially launch the Adkins agency?
So I officially relaunched it. I mean, technically I launched it in 2020, you know, right after I had been geographically relocated. I think is the legal term we're going to go with. But I relaunched this specific set of programs in December of last year. I launched 2 programs. There is the VIP one-on-one where I work with creative entrepreneurs that just need a little bit of guidance on like what's in their head and what to prioritize and help them get a project plan together that they themselves can execute. And then I also launched a Done For You service where I work with busy creative entrepreneurs who just want to focus on being a creative. You know, like I work with them to flesh out the idea that's in their head, get it all together, and then I execute it for them from start to finish, keeping them updated on how things are going, but I'm taking it completely off of their plate. So those were the 2 main ways that I relaunched to show up for people was like, how can I help people keep the same level of excitement and energy they had when they first had their creative idea before they got completely drained and, you know, overwhelmed or discouraged by all of the logistics that come with launching.
Yeah, because, you know, it's so funny. I always say, like, I never know where these interviews will go, right? Like, and I thought originally, oh, this is going to be a whole podcast interview about project management and why creative entrepreneurs, you know, all that stuff, right? And look, we're almost 50 minutes in and we haven't even touched anything about project management, right? But there was, I do want to, no. This is what I think is the beauty of this podcast, even as you probably know from listening to so many episodes, right? Is like, you can never predict someone's story if you don't know it. And sometimes I think even in just talking about your own journey, there are things that we unearth that are just probably more important than like the tactical stuff, right? But I do want to ask you this because I think it was a great post on your page. And I think it's something that a lot of us really just struggle with. Oh, I have it. Creative entrepreneurs, 3 common myths creative entrepreneurs believe that's holding them back from successfully launching, right? And this could be like an idea. This can be launching anything, right? I think a lot of us as creative entrepreneurs, I'm just going to read off the ones that you have here. I'm too busy, right? It's going to take too long, or it's not going to take that long to do this. So they think that, all right, I have more than enough time. I could do it myself, right? Or my project doesn't need a project plan. And me as a creative entrepreneur, I can tell you, I have said all these things to myself, and it really has backfired. So I would say to you, like, let's talk to our dream drivers. Like, why is project management, or why is really creating some sort of plan when it comes to executing our dreams or a project within our dreams? Why is that so important? And like, maybe what are some quick tips that you can share with us?
First, I always like to say that a dream without a plan is just a wish. You know, you can sit and, you know, come up with all of these ideas that you have about how you're going to launch a podcast or you're going to write a book or whatever. But if you don't put actual steps and plans and structure into place, it's just going to be one of those things that you talk about and end up in your unfinished stack of ideas. You know, as creatives, we have lots and lots of ideas. So I would say that it's important to, it's important to get a good foundation, you know, like why are you doing this? What's the objective? You know, what would be in scope to consider? Why are we doing what we're doing? What's going to be a part of it? Don't tell me you're going to launch a service and then in the middle of it be like, I'm also going to launch a podcast. Like that's not realistic, you know, especially if you don't change your timeline or you don't change your budget. You can't just go changing the scope, you know, that's just not how it's going to work. You know, considering what are your requirements to do it? You know, like if you say you're going to launch a podcast, do you have the equipment? Do you have, you know, any software do you need? Do you need anyone to edit it? You know, like what would you need to do in order to fulfill that objective to be in scope? You know, like people don't consider what their risks are. What could go wrong? You know, like there needs to be a plan for when shit goes left. So that way you have a chance of succeeding. There are a number of people who in America who end up not being successful entrepreneurs is staggering. And I think that one of the ways we can help minimize that is by thinking ahead of the things that we might encounter that might trip us up and then trying to work a way around it so that it doesn't completely derail us from our goals. You know, just those types of things just to even start creating the foundation around it. And then, you know, from there, just creating an actual plan, like who's going to do what type of activities is it going to take? How long is it going to take? And I mean, like, really, how long is it going to take? Not how long you hope it's going to take, you know, like, oh, I can do this. And like, it's not going to take me that long. I can do this in like a week. When you really probably realistically know it's going to take you like 2-3 weeks to do it. Like, let's just have a come to Jesus conversation with ourselves about how long things could take. You know, what are your dependencies? You know, is there anything that might need to happen first that you didn't consider? If you're launching a podcast and you say, oh, you're going to record and interview this person, but your equipment's going to take X amount of time to get there, then you can't realistically say that you're going to do it in a week.
Exactly.
Yeah. So things like that. And then also, I would just say a lot of people could really benefit from measuring their progression, which is why it's important to have a success criteria in the beginning. Because if you say, I will know this project is successful if let me think of something. If I have the first episode, you know, recorded in this amount of date and then ready for editing by this point. Well, by the time that date comes around, you should be able to say, okay, let me look back at what I'm using to measure my success and compare and say, are things going the way that I want them to go? Or do I need to stop and pivot and make some changes and adjust accordingly? So, you know, I think that when people think of creative projects, nobody wants to think about planning. I mean, planning isn't sexy. It's not fun for creatives. It's not fun for creatives, but when you outsource it out, you know, things outside your zone of genius to people like me who can help them even get started, whether it's like a free checklist that I have on my website or by, you know, just doing a VIP day where you just start to figure out, okay, what do I need to do? Or hand it off to someone entirely to take it off of their plate to say, okay, I don't want to do any of this. This isn't fun for me. Those are the kind of things that help make creative projects actually get done and not be just an idea that you had in your head that you dropped and let go.
Ugh, I love all these tips that you shared. Thank you so much, Twyla. And I really hope, you know, maybe this is the time where you can tell people where they can find like your, you know, social media or just your work. Because I know I'm like, maybe I might need to start working with you because I am the queen of thinking I can do everything myself. And you really do you really do, what's the word, like pause your potential, or just like when you try to do everything yourself, things just don't work. Like work with the experts who can help you with things. So tell our
Yes.
listeners now, I mean, I have more questions, but maybe just tell them now where they can connect with you, or if just hearing your tips pique their interest in what you do.
Sure. If you all want some free game, hit me up on social media at Adkins Agency. That's ADKINS and Sam Agency. I like to give free tips there. I might drag you a little bit, but it's all out of love. Or go to my website, adkins.agency, to work with me.
Okay. You know, throughout this journey, right? This dream driving journey of yours, Twyla, like what's something that you really learned about yourself? Like even where you are now, like looking back, like what's something you really learned about yourself?
I learned I'm a tough bitch. I learned how resilient and determined I am. I learned to try to be more of myself. I think I've always assumed that that they don't want to get to know the real me. I always thought that people preferred like the curated, perfected version. You know, I would say I'm a perfectionist in recovery. I think that I've always thought that's what people wanted. And I'm learning to just kind of be less guarded and just let people actually see me for who I am.
I think a lot of us, like, it's funny when you have to go through things sometimes in order to really figure out, like, who am I, or how am I changing, or what are these things about myself that I never noticed? And, you know, I couldn't have you on the show too without just asking you, because I'm a mom now and our sons are legit like 3 days apart, right? Mm-hmm. How do you think motherhood has informed your journey?
Not only that does it drive me, because I want to create generational wealth. You know, I want to make sure that my son, by the time he is older, you know, he already has stocks. He already has a savings account and stocks that I've already bought for him. And I'm trying to set him up so that he has generational wealth. And so he doesn't have to make decisions out of fear or money like I did. So that's the first thing right there. And outside of that, I would say it has made me incredibly patient, not only with him, but with myself, especially as a mom that is living with disability. It's hard to pick on myself because maybe I don't always have the same level of energy to do certain things as everybody else does. So it's taught me to be patient and kind, not only towards him, but towards myself.
And you know, I'm saying this as growing up. I don't know if you ever listened to this episode, but I grew up with a mom who has a disability, and it's funny because when you're a kid, you don't really notice the difference, right? Like you're just like, this is how my mom is, right? Like I didn't know my mom walks slower than other moms as a kid. I'm just like, okay, this is just how my mom is, right? But now as I'm a mother and now as I'm an adult and I look back at all my mom did despite of, right? And all that she sacrificed, like I know that your son one day, like when he hears your full story and when he really understands just how much you went through and how much you still, you know, like you didn't give up on him, right? Like we're not like, hey, I didn't say I can't do this. Like you really did push through. I'm really sure he's gonna be so proud of you and just so inspired by you. Cause I even now, you know, I'm really inspired by like the things that people said my mom couldn't do, right? They tried to count her out, but she still kind of pushed forward. So that's just something I just wanted to say to you, because I know what it is to have a mom who's living with like, you know, disability, where that wasn't how her life was all her life, right? Like she, I think it was at the age of 32, she was in a car accident, right? And her life changed. So just knowing that you knew life before this, right? And you now know how your life is now. And I'm just so thankful that you just were so vulnerable and just shared your journey. And I know that somebody else listening is going to be impacted by just how you were impacted, right? There's going to be somebody who's going to reach out to you and say thank you and want to work with you. And there's going to be another chain of a domino effect that goes on as well. I just know it. I really do feel that. Sorry if I was all over the place.
No. I not only do I appreciate that I received that, I that means so much to me because I often feel less than, and I have a huge imposter syndrome, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wasn't able to lean over the tub and give him a bath night. Like I'm a terrible mom, or I needed to take a break and lay down or something like that. And so that means a lot to me because it is something that, it weighs heavy on my heart. So to hear you say that is really, really, it's a blessing. So thank you.
Yeah, but these little boys that we have, right? Aren't you so excited to just see, how they grow up and how we influence them? I just keep telling myself every day, Raina, don't F him up, right?
Like, oh my God. I have two thoughts about that. Number one is, I just want to talk to Father Time, tell him I'm looking for him because it's going by too fast and everything needs to slow down. And the second thought is that I always have is like, please, Lord, don't let this be the thing that jacks him up completely.
Right?
So, yeah. Yeah,
like 100%. Axel's new thing is he loves watching he's not a cartoon kid, so like he doesn't have an iPad or anything. He doesn't really like watching like videos of singing people, but his obsession is watching motorcycle videos. Like I don't know, like that's just all he ever wants to watch. So sometimes when I say no and I try to hide my phone from him and he's like, bike, right? That's what he calls motorcycles. I'm like, is he gonna say that I was a bad mom because I take away my phone? Because he'll just sit and watch like motorcycle videos. So it's just funny, but we're doing a good job, right? Like we're also pandemic moms. This is your first kid, right?
Yes. And these pandemic babies are built different. Let me tell you, man, like I always worry about the development and the anxiety or whatever that, may be as effect of, being born in 2020 or anyone thereafter. But he's like his mom. He's resilient. His thing is Paw Patrol. In my head, in my house, Chase is always on the case and it's driving me crazy. But yeah, they're resilient and they're tough kids. They're tough kids.
And we're tough moms in the sense that we made it through a whole pandemic, right? We didn't make it through because the pandemic is still going on. So we're making it through. And, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Twyla. This has been such an amazing conversation. But, there's one thing that we can't, we got to do our keys to success, right? If you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So Twyla, can you tell me 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road?
A plan forward. I know, shocking from the project manager. No one saw that coming. I would say a plan forward because again, a dream without a plan is just a wish. So, what are you going to do? What steps are you going to take to actually go forward and set yourself up for success? My second thing would be a risk management plan for when shit goes left. Because if you stay ready, you don't ever have to get ready. Okay, so what are you gonna? What do you think might happen that's gonna trip you up, and how are you gonna handle it and stay ahead of it? And my last one is wisdom on when they should rest and when they should reevaluate if what they're doing is still working for you. Because it's never too late to pivot and change. And don't buy into the hustle mentality that you have to work yourself out to burn out. Go on ahead and log off and know when, if something isn't working, it's okay to switch it up and try something different.
Exactly. I love that. Plan forward, a risk management plan, and wisdom for when you need to rest or press pause. Thank you, Twyla. This has been such an amazing conversation. I really hope that our dream drivers were as inspired by you as I was.
Oh my gosh, is this like a dream come true, to be honest? Thank you for having me.
The conversation went where it went, right? Like sometimes you can think, okay, this is what we're going to talk about, but an hour passes and we had such a great conversation. So I really do hope, listen, guys, if you are interested in Twyla's services, if you want to connect with her, make sure you go and connect with her. Make sure you do that because like we said in this conversation, don't count yourself out, right? Don't count yourself out.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so that's a wrap for episode 295 with Twyla. I hope you enjoyed hearing her dream driving journey as well as her keys to success. If you love this episode, guys, please make sure that you are sharing it on social media, that you're posting it to Instagram stories, letting somebody in your community, texting it to somebody. Let somebody know that you love this episode with Twyla, that you love the Dreams and Drive podcast. We are Dreams and Drive across social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and you can use the hashtag Dreams and Drive as well. If you want to be part of the Dreams and Drive community and get weekly email updates from me personally, just sign up at dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. And if you were inspired by Twyla's story and have a story that you want to share as well, pitch me. I'm always looking at these incoming pitches. I may not always respond, but you're always top of mind, especially if I'm looking for a particular topic or a particular industry. So always make sure that you're pitching me your story. Go to dreamsanddrive.com/pitch to fill out our pitch form. dreamsanddrive.com/pitch to fill out our form. All right, guys, we are heading into February. I cannot believe that we are already in month 2 of the 2022, right? Keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in episode 296, 4 episodes away, or 5 episodes away from episode 300. Crazy. Bye, guys.